But this illegitimate government is illegitimate at every single level. I mean, if you take it back to what our founding fathers designed for this country, for our republic, we were to be the Constitution for the United States of America, not of the United States. They've done a lot of wordsmithing. The 13th Amendment was changed from the original intention, which was to make sure no powers of nobility, such as esquires, could serve in public government. And what do we have running around Congress and the Congressional Hill right now is a bunch of esquires, aka attorneys.
Yep.
That was never the intention. The 14th Amendment basically stole our sovereignty. It stole the state sovereignty. That amendment, when it was passed, was ratified right after the Civil War ended in 1868, and that was under the guise of, if you want to be readmitted to the Union, you need to ratify this amendment. We've got to take a hard look at how this country was established and how it was basically stolen by a corporatocracy going back to the British Crown, and it's been a slow evolution, and it's speeding up out of control right now. And we have to recognize that Washington, D.C. is a corporation. All of the illegitimate agencies are all for-profit corporations, including the Department of Defense. That's the military-industrial complex. The FDA is part of the big pharma or the medical-industrial complex, as well as, of course, the big food industrial complex. So there is just so much for-profiteering going on that has nothing to do with serving in the best interests of the people who supposedly elected their public officials, to which nobody in these bureaucratic institutions were ever elected. They were selected and appointed and placed there. You and I never had a say in Fauci running the NIAID. So these are some very serious problems that we have. It's a true constitutional crisis our nation has been in for quite some time. It's only right now, Apollo, that we are truly beginning to see the manifestation of it in our country that's imploding from the inside. And again, all by design. Absolutely every single thing that you see happening is all by design, starting with Joe Biden, destroying our energy, our America First energy policy, where we were completely energy independent. We've got to come to terms with all this. We just have to stop acknowledging anything they say in DC and recognize that, yes, they can send their goons. The FBI, which was never even chartered by Congress, again, another unconstitutional bunch of goon squads in brown shirts that have now proven to be liars and fraudsters and hoaxsters, aka January 6th. All of this has got to be digested by the American people, and they've got to say enough. And there's ways that we can resolve this and reestablish our own sovereignty and correct our own status from the 14th Amendment hijacking of our sovereignty. We all have our own trust that has been set up by our fiction, all caps, name and birth certificate and social security number when we are born. And that trust, there's every time you have a case number that's created based on an interaction with a policy enforcer, a case number is generated and a QSIP and an IBAN number, and then it's sold out the back door to a broker, a bonds broker, who then throws it into a bond and they monetize. So like PIMCO's municipal bonds, things like that, is full of things like this, capitalizing on your dead entity because they can bill your trust, not only to put you in jail, but to have you appear in court. That the policy enforcer also was billing your trust, and if they gave you a public defender or anybody else that was involved, the prosecutor, public defender, they're all billing your trust. So part of this process is to claim your trust so that they can no longer bill it, because you are the beneficiary, but you are never told you're the beneficiary of this trust. I've actually done all this, and then I went on the irs.gov's website and downloaded their Form 56, which is it's paperwork that establishes your beneficiary relationship with the IRS. And I sent in, like I showed you my copy, my Form 56, that says my beneficiary relationship with the IRS now only permits sales tax and tariffs to be paid by me, a living free woman. I no longer have a relationship with the IRS. It says I have to pay them income tax. And this is their form that you are filling out. This is the truth. I mean, let's face it, the first 10 amendments in our Bill of Rights are really all that matters. Everything else after that becomes part of the corporation. Let's face it, the 16th Amendment, that's a big old no-no, and that was always supposed to be voluntary, but it was only supposed to apply to federal citizens. Well, remember what they did in 1871, they incorporated Washington, D.C., but in 1868, the 14th Amendment made us all federal citizens. So they stole our sovereignty. So once they incorporated DC, we became subjects as corporate. And then when they gave us the Social Security number in 1935, we now all became corporate entities, as part of the federal corporation. So therefore, they claim that their mandates, their statutes, their laws apply to us. It's when you correct your status that you throw those corporate chains off. American state nationals, people who've gone through this process to renounce their 14th Amendment corporate United States citizenship. We have removed ourselves from the corporation and we stand freely as free men and women on the land. We're no longer part of that federal corporation. I've reclassified, restored, and corrected my status as a free woman. I'm no longer a fictional entity. In other words, an all caps dead entity that needs an attorney to represent me to the court. And you go back to being on the land, out of their admiralty court system, which is the court of commerce, and they're treating you like a commercial entity. I put myself back on the land. I've reclaimed dominion of the land, which is common law court, the most powerful court in the land. Air, which is trust law and ecclesiastic law, and then of course water, which is LAW, water for admiralty court. So I've reclaimed dominion over all those three areas of juris, and I'm very careful with the diction, the words that I use when I interact, depending on which juris I am in. I even have a U.S. passport that reflects my status, acknowledges me no longer as a U.S. citizen, but as an American state national. So I've gone through this process. It's extremely liberating. And there's a lot more that we will benefit from. This is a really, it's a revolutionary conversation because it gets people fired up. But frankly, it's just going back to the basics, how we were started, how this country was founded. Americans need to wake up to this. And I think we're starting to see that happen. People are knowing that there's something seriously wrong and they're asking for solutions. And we've got to start delivering those solutions.